Hello everyone, and welcome back to another International Marketing Monday. Today, we're going to talk about one of the largest mega corporations in India, Tata. So, what does Tata do? Well, they do literally everything you could think of, from airlines to luxury hotels to food to telecom to Indian Starbucks. But I'm not here to talk about any of those. Today, we're going to look into Tata Motors. Now, back in the 90s, the automobile industry in India was booming, and Tata wanted to get a piece of that. They already had this company called Telco, which had been manufacturing trains for about 40 years. So they decided to rebrand it as Tata Motors. They spent a few years studying the Indian market, and they decided to develop a car that could target the low-end passenger car sector. So they created the Tata Indica. It was the first diesel-powered hatchback in India, and it flopped really bad. The thing had terrible mileage, terrible horsepower. Nobody was buying it. In fact, Tata was going out of business, so they had to sell the company. And while looking for a deal, they flew all the way to America to try and make a deal with Ford. But when they finally met up with them in Detroit, Ford wasn't really impressed with them. The chairman told them that Tata shouldn't have even set foot in the car production business without understanding it, and that he would be doing them a huge favor if he even considered buying their company. Unsurprisingly, they never managed to work out a deal. But once they returned to India, the owner of Tata decided to redouble their efforts, and he poured a ton of money into Tata Motors. And this time, they got it right. They pushed out a wide range of low-end cars, and they managed to get a strong foothold in the Indian market. By 2008, they had the best-selling cars in India. But 2008 was also the year of the recession, and it was hitting Ford pretty hard. Two of their brands, Jaguar and Land Rover, were doing terrible, and they had declining sales over the past few years. So they were looking to sell them. And Tata came in and bought them for about $2.3 billion. And over the next few years, they managed to turn it around by restructuring the companies to be more efficient and improving the quality of the vehicles. And they managed to triple the sales of Jaguar and Land Rover over the course of a few years. Meanwhile, back in India, Tata introduced the cheapest production car in the world, the Tata Nano. It's about $1,300, though it was probably a bit too cheap considering they had a tendency to explode, so it got discontinued in 2019. They also started selling EVs, which thankfully don't blow up as much, and about 3/4 of EVs sold in India were made by Tata. So yeah, they're doing pretty well. But before I finish, I also want to mention another big Indian mega corporation. They're called ITC. They do a lot of things like IT solutions, luxury hotels, fertilizers, but I know them best for stationery. They're the biggest producer of stationery in India. And like almost everyone I knew used to use their pens, pencils, and notebooks back in school. So, what do you think ITC stands for? Maybe Indian Technology Company, or perhaps the Indian Trade Company? Nope. They're the Indian Tobacco Company. They are the biggest producer of tobacco in India. So basically, back when they were just a tobacco company, they acquired a paper company to manufacture paper for their cigarettes, which basically expanded into selling notebooks and then expanded into selling stationery items to children in India. So, well, I hope you learned something interesting, and thanks for listening to another International Marketing Monday.